A matter of public importance concluded, in accordance with the resolution of the House, business is now interrupted for the presentation of a valedictory speech. Before calling the member for Dubbo, could I welcome you all here this afternoon, and especially his family, Tony, Hamish and Taylor. Also Troy's dad, Ken, and his sister, Kim. And to everyone, we extend a very warm welcome to you this afternoon. It is much pleasure that I call the member for Dubbo.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 30 years and 14 days ago, I drove through the gates of the New South Wales Police Academy in Goulburn and began my career in public service. Some 22 years later, I stood in this historic chamber in the 55th Parliament of New South Wales to deliver my inaugural speech as the 13th member for the electoral district of Dubbo. Tonight, here in this 56th Parliament, I rise to give my 406th and final address to this chamber. Mr. Speaker, I stand here humbled for the final time, as I did the very first. I stand here proudly, having served the Dubbo electorate during that time in two very different incarnations, immensely proud of what we have achieved together for our communities. I stand here reflectful, having recently revisited my inaugural speech, where I outlined my intentions, my courage of conviction to right the many wrongs, my determination to ensure my electorate was no longer out of sight or out of mind, and reflect on what has been a most rewarding and not unremarkable parliamentary career. I reflect on it all, the good and the bad, the great and the ugly, the loyalty and the betrayal, the triumph and the tragedy. But I stand here most of all grateful. I am grateful for the many, many wonderful opportunities I have been afforded during the last 8 years to serve the people of the Dubbo electorate and New South Wales. I've had the privilege to serve in that time in many different capacities on many varied issues. I'm truly grateful to all those in the community, the many stakeholders I've worked with, parliamentary and cabinet colleagues, ministerial and electoral staff, my family and friends who have all supported and guided me. I'm grateful to you all because I am acutely aware and I am eternally grateful for your support, knowing that I have not stood here alone. So tonight will not be a speech about me. It is simply an opportunity for me to say thank you to you. 8 years can feel like a lifetime, or it can be gone in the blink of an eye. For me, my service in Parliament has had a little of both. Starting at the beginning, I offer my sincere thanks to those who got me here. The Honourable Duncan Gay and the Honourable Thomas George. On the recommendation of a former commander and on the back of a coffee and a chat in April 2010, I could never have imagined that being coerced to run for Parliament by these two giants of the New South Wales Nationals against their popular sitting independent, that I would be here today. It was you, with then State Director Ben Franklin, who gave Tony and I the confidence to put my name forward to serve. Thomas, the opposition leader, said last week we needed to reset a button for behaviour in this Parliament. Some certainly do, but I submit that if the 93 members of this chamber simply followed your lead and demonstrated your character, the political standing of parliamentarians in New South Wales would be far superior than it currently is. I cherish your friendship and guidance to me during both the good and the tough times. My campaign manager for both elections, without peer, Peter Bartley, and the team, Peter Tremble, Pauline Trevor McAllister, the wonderful Judy Jakins, Kevin Sinclair, Nathan Quigley, Maddie Goodwin and Stuart Davies, the Honourable Ian Armstrong, Christian Shibley, Peter and Narelle Ross, Roger Fletcher and Bob Berry, hundreds of wonderful Nationals members and supporters, family and friends too many to name. Thank you for your outstanding commitment and support. In 2011, 63% two-party preferred, and 2015, 70% two-party preferred, was just rewards for your dedication and hard work. I would like to thank former Premier Barry O'Farrell and Deputy Premier Andrew Stainer for their support and faith in me as I arrived in this place, appointing me as Parliamentary Secretary for Natural Resources. It is a day I soon will not forget. Immediately after being sworn in, I had a 2-hour chamber duty sitting up the back. I was told that was my seat, and that's exactly where I sat for about 6 months. During that time, my new colleagues came up to me and said, "Congratulations." I said, "Congratulations," back to them. They looked at me strangely, and this went on for a little while. And I thought, what a friendly place this is. After completing my chamber duty, I headed to the office up on level 12, where along the way a few more congratulatory offerings were made, and I gave the same answer and more quizzical looks on their faces as I responded. I arrived upstairs to my patient wife and 2 really bored kids. Tony said my phone, which I had left in the office, a practice I've maintained for 8 years, was ringing off the hook. I checked the messages, the first from my new boss. "Troy, congratulations, you've been appointed Parliamentary Secretary for Natural Resources. Keep it quiet for about half an hour and a media release will go out shortly." Seemed this place didn't quite operate like the cops. Certainly when it came to promotions and many other things, I had a fair bit to learn. I was initially daunted being thrown into the deep end, but ultimately grateful for the opportunities. I got to travel the state over and over, and I learnt so much about so many uncontroversial issues in the portfolio: native vegetation, water management, the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, forestry, coal seam gas, catchment management authorities, and Crown lands as examples. I will always be grateful to the Minister's team and departmental staff for their support, their guidance and friendship during those 3 years. Together we made, I believe, great headway and did the ground and grunt work, providing pathways to resolve a lot of those perennial legacy issues through the Land and Water Advisory Panel and the Forestry Industry Task Force both I proudly chaired. I'm the patron of Landcare New South Wales and am proud of the great strides that have been taken by that organisation for our natural environment. I'd like to acknowledge Tim Scott, Karen Richardson, Samantha Day, Ilse Vandermunt, Anna Ferguson, Mitchell Isaacs, Tim Ferraro, Tom Gavel, Alex Anthony, David Dawson, Tara Black, Renata Brooks, many from Landcare New South Wales, Paul Wells, David Harris, just to name a few. Over the last 8 years or so, much has changed in the political landscape, both positive and negative. The political landscape we work in now is vastly different than it was in 2011, with the rise of the anti-establishment movement influenced by Brexit and the Trump effect, declining quality and capacity in the media, the rise of and far too toxic social media platforms, and to the nation's great shame, the rotation of prime ministers and undermining of political leaders, shamefully devaluing the parliamentarian standing in the community's eyes. Positively though, much has improved, and as always, there is always more to do. One major positive I'd like to reflect on, where I played a small role, was in mid-2012. After serving just over 12 months in this chamber, I rose at the urging of my colleague Adrian Pickley to raise the issue of child sexual assault and its cover-up by the Catholic Church. This followed my public calling on Cardinal George Pell to fall on his sword after an ABC Lateline story highlighted serious behaviour and allegations of church leaders, including the Cardinal, covering up sexual assault on all the boys in the Armidale Diocese. I spoke at the time of my own experiences as the investigator in charge of a similar type of offence in the Maitland-Newcastle Diocese, and the dire need to hold those to account. While I won't recount those details, they are all a matter of record on Hansard and many media publications since. I wish to thank publicly Suzanne Smith from the ABC at the time, Paul Murray from Sky News, and Adrian for encouraging me to find my voice on these issues. I was incredibly reluctant to talk about this subject matter, only in fear of bringing further attention to an unwanted focus of the issues for the 30 victims in my investigation. However, with their blessing and Adrian's encouragement, I spoke long and loud for the need for this institution to be held accountable for their past crimes and the need for victims to be heard. I want to thank then Premier O'Farrell for calling a special commission of inquiry into the Maitland-Newcastle Diocese, which then complemented the subsequent National Royal Commission into Institutional Child Abuse, and for appointing me Chair of the Joint Select Committee on the Sentencing of Child Sexual Assault Offenders. I am incredibly proud of the progress that has been achieved since that time. I will never forget sitting in the National Party room with the 7:30 report ready to do yet another interview when the reporter said, "Hang on, Gillard's on TV." We watched together as she made that historic announcement. There are many advocates responsible for the establishment of the Royal Commission. I give former Prime Minister Gillard great credit, and many others, for the enormous outcomes it has stimulated, including the recent apology in the Federal Parliament. In particular, the members of the Royal Commission. Tonight I welcome Commissioner Bob Atkinson here, and Hetty Johnson from Bravehearts. I thank you all for your work. It has been my privilege to play a small role in righting some of these wrongs and working beside you. I want to thank Premier Berejiklian and our Attorney-General, Mark Speakman, for your leadership. New South Wales is the first state to embrace the redress scheme. We've introduced many legislative and court reforms to increase penalties and ease some of the burden from victims. We've also introduced the opportunity for chemical castration for these offenders. No one, particularly the Premier, will forget my own personal preference that I articulated on live TV at the press conference. Don't worry, Premier, I won't repeat that sentiment tonight. Much good has been achieved since mid-2012 on this issue, yet there is still more to do. Despite the anti-government rhetoric and the dishonesty that is being purported, neither regional New South Wales nor my electorate has ever received in its history as much state government investment in infrastructure and services than it has right now. This investment has transformed my region into a genuine powerhouse of our state's economy. The Dubbo electorate is described as being in a golden age of jobs, historically low levels of unemployment, investment in infrastructure growth, falling crime rates, record police, nurse and teacher numbers, and this is all absolutely true. Yet my political and local opponents will claim we have failed. We have not failed. There is simply much more to do. But the whole truth is that we had a hell of a lot to do when we inherited the government reins because of a decade and a half of neglect in my area, debt and deficit. A decade ago, as an example, Dubbo's unemployment rate was between 6 and 7%. Today, it is 2.7%. Youth unemployment in Dubbo was 15%. Now it's 6%. But of equal truth, too many of our citizens are doing it tough or are living in despair. And I agree more effective measures are needed in our social justice sector, particularly the cooperation across government agencies and an inversion of the investment paradigm where the greatest level of funding goes to crisis management, the least to prevention. It simply can't be Groundhog Day all over again. Over the next decade, government must finally address the investment models and insist on a new way of delivery and support those most in need. Dubbo and Kempsey has been trialling a family investment model project I initiated under the Justice Department. It is being oversight by the Australian Institute of Criminology. The FIM, as it's known, has representatives from each of the social justice agencies working together daily, side by side, with those in our community with the greatest of life's challenges. Amazing outcomes are being achieved. To Kate Connors and Narelle Jeffrey and the two teams, I know how tough the gig is. I'm proud of you all. Please keep going. I'm confident that your work as pioneers in this area has the potential to reshape our state's social justice effort and consequently much needed policy and funding reform. The prize will be better outcomes for those in broken situations and living in misery. I don't intend to go through each of the electorate investments or projects that have been achieved over the last 8 years, other than to say that as I leave this place, every single election commitment I made has been delivered or is well into the process of being finalised. The quantum of investment for projects above and beyond core state government funding for the 7 years to date for the Dubbo electorate is $1.191 billion and counting. I'll take this opportunity to table the grant report. Vitally, this money has paid for the bricks and mortar of 4 new hospitals and 2 MPSs, an integrated cancer centre, roads, schools, police stations and community infrastructure, particularly sporting and cultural facilities. But it isn't the bricks and mortars that counts. It's the change and the impact on community and people's lives. People in Western New South Wales no longer have to choose whether to stay at home and die rather than to travel and seek treatment for cancer. They will soon have the ability to be diagnosed, treated and accommodated nearer to their home in Dubbo. And these achievements I do not claim to be my own. They are the very real example of the strength of partnerships, which I wish to acknowledge. Firstly, acknowledging my federal colleague Mark Holton, the member for Parks, the most decent of men for his work by my side on so many of these ventures. He shares these successes. Obviously, to the Premiers O'Farrell, Baird and Berejiklian, each of the Treasurers, the Cabinet Ministers, current and former, who have backed me in and backed in my communities. The triumph of the Dubbo electorate from 2011 to 2019 and well into the future is yours all to share. In particular, I have to acknowledge Ministers Duncan Gay, Gillian Skinner, Brad Hazzard, Mike Gallagher, Niall Blair, Adrian Pickley, Rob Stokes, Adam Marshall, Leslie Williams and my little mate Paul Toole for their specific and sizeable contributions to my electorate and their strong support of me. To the local governments of Dubbo Regional, Midwestern, Parks, Narromine, Forbes and Cambon, you are all now the custodians of much of this investment that will underpin your community's ongoing growth and prosperity. The strength of your future partnership with the new member for Dubbo will be vital in continuing this success, and I believe it is your most important endeavour. I'd like to thank and acknowledge in particular Mayors Matthew Dickerson, Des Kennedy, Ken Keith, Bill McAnally, Craig Davis, Phyllis Miller and Ian Gosper for your support and friendship during my tenure. To the General Managers Mark Riley, Brad Cam, Kent Boyd and Jane Redden, thank you. And in particular to Administrator Michael Knight and the former DRC Director Murray Wood, your work and that of your teams has been exceptional. You have left a lasting legacy for the areas you served and you should all be enormously proud. This place, as we've heard, is described as the bear pit, and on too many days and too many lately, that is true. But I leave this place with more fond memories than poor. Across this chamber, I thank many from all sides for their friendship, support and words of encouragement when I've needed them. I won't and can't name you all in fear of missing someone, but you know who you are and I wish each of you the very best, whether you continue in this place or are venturing down another path. Mr Speaker, I seek an extension.
Is leave granted? Leave granted. Do you think we're going to stop you?
To the clerks and parliamentary and committee staff who I've worked with over the years, I thank you for your support and your endeavours in service to this Parliament. It is probably only acknowledged annually, but it is appreciated daily. To the special constables, cleaners, catering and administrative staff, to Beck and Annie in particular, to Taz Mirafatis in particular, for your assistance to my electorate office team, it will always be remembered and appreciated. In 8 years in Parliament, all going well, I will have been privileged to have served my entire term in the Executive and 5 of the 8 years in Cabinet. To do so has been enormously humbling, despite the huge toll my long absences from home have taken. About to tuck into some magnificent mud crabs at a family dinner on Easter Monday 2014 in Bundaberg, Queensland, I had been mostly oblivious to the frantic political machinations here in Sydney. As the first crab claw cracked open, I got the call up to the ministry and a request to be at a media event by lunchtime in Sydney the next day. Have you ever driven from Bundaberg to Sydney? Or for that matter, attempted to fly? It simply wasn't happening. So we left early the following day, saying goodbye to family for the 14-hour drive to Dubbo, which in hindsight was quite a peaceful affair due to the many black spots, hindering an avalanche of media and congratulatory calls. Tony, the kids, and Buster, our family dog, arrived home late that night, threw the bags out, bundled the kids into bed for a quick nap. We're up early for the 6:30 a.m. flight and the dash to Sydney to just make it in time for a swearing-in ceremony at Government House. A frantic start to the career, and in all honesty, it hasn't slowed down one bit. I have endeavoured in each of the portfolios I've had, some 10, to give my very best and to absolutely dedicate myself to overcoming the challenges and embracing the opportunities each portfolio has brought. I hope when leaving them I have left each of them in a better position. I've always prided myself on hard work, integrity and honesty, and I hope I have demonstrated that to all I have worked with in these endeavours. I want to thank the Honourable George Souris, who I succeeded in the portfolios of hospitality, gaming and racing and the arts. Despite his obvious disappointment in losing the ministry, he and Vassie could not have been more supportive of me, and that continues through to today. Thank you, George. Inheriting the controversial lockout laws and rollout of ID scanners to manage a proposed restricted gaming facility somewhere around Barangaroo, to digest and approve 3 racing codes screaming out for support and the desperate need for organisational reform in the regulatory agencies, a drought of funding, a massive demand for investment into the arts. From day one, I knew I had a fair bit to do. So I immediately set about building strong and genuine relationships across the great divide of opinion and interest in this portfolio. And I hope I was able to achieve pragmatic and merit-based outcomes for both community and industry. Increases to the Responsible Gambling Fund, departmental reform, legislative reform and holding those properly to account that not only let their communities down, but let their industries down. As an example, I imposed the first ever lifetime ban for an operator, and that's just a snapshot of our work. To Peter V'landys, John Massara, Russell Balding and Racing New South Wales team, wow, what a transformation for Sydney provincial and country racing we have achieved together. Racing New South Wales is now #1 in Australia. You all have much to be proud of. I wish to thank sincerely so many stakeholders I worked with across 3 years, and much was accomplished. Peter Newell, Anthony Ball, Josh Landis in Clubs New South Wales, Scott Leach and Johnny Whelan, Neville and Joanne Blair in the AHA. We achieved the most historic, and Arthur Laundy, from AHA. We achieved the most historic arts infrastructure investment which continues today for our state cultural institutions. Each of them, the Opera House, the Australian Museum, State Library, the Art Gallery, Walsh Bay Precinct, but also regionally and importantly in Western Sydney. Program funding directed by the first ever Cabinet endorsed Arts and Culture Strategy created in New South Wales for the regions of New South Wales, including Western Sydney, provided scholarships and arts organisations with some surety and direction. Made in New South Wales, a $20 million film fund, which has provided significant industry and economic returns, and 2 Oscars. Stronger and genuine partnerships between the government and the sector, putting New South Wales back in the game. My sincere thanks to Secretary Mark Patterson, Paul Newson, the brilliant Samantha Torres, Courtney Gibson, wonderful chairs and CEOs of the institutions and advisory committee members, many who are here tonight, to John Simon, Nicholas Moore, David Gonski, Catherine Livingston, Simon Morden, Barney Glover, Kim Mackay, Professor Rebecca Johnson, Louise Heron, Lizanne McGregor, Lisa Havilag, Gretel Packer, John Cowdall, Steve Found, Chris Freeland, Brett Clegg and Dan Rosen. And there are many others. My sincerest thank you to you all. You apparently inherited a flatfoot cop as an arts minister, and I know many of you had some concerns. I hope I did okay. The Ministries of Trade and Investment, Regional Infrastructure and Services, Tourism and Major Events followed, but I had them all at the same time, by circumstance, not by choice. And I was proud of the many accomplishments that we achieved during my short tenure in these roles. International Convention Centre, Tourism and Transport Forum, many members, Margie Osmond, Margaret Jack, others, John Hardigan, Sandra Chipchase and the team at Destination New South Wales. Thank you. A regional tourism focus we designed. World first fast forward tennis, a revamped Australia Day celebrations program, major soccer matches featuring Chelsea and Liverpool, and major funding streams developed for Taronga and regional conferencing. Just some of the great work we achieved and great outcomes in quick time. Obviously being co-opted by my team into the role as leader of New South Wales Nationals and 17th Deputy Premier of New South Wales, the youngest man apparently to have done so, and just after 3.5 years in Parliament was a tremendous honour. Getting the gig just 6 months out from a general election and a suite of brave but important policy issues to tackle during that election, it was an honour, but no small task. Every member of the New South Wales Nationals who stood for re-election was re-elected. 2 of the 3 retiring seats were won, and we welcomed 3 new members into the team. As leader, I promised the party room that we would leave no one behind, and defying history, working my guts out, that's just what we did. To the state executive and campaign teams, the leadership team, Duncan and Adrian, party elders, dear friends, I thank you. To the Honourable John Howard, the Honourable Tim Fisher, the Honourable John Anderson, I want to especially thank you. You have always been available to me with a word of advice or a hand in support, a quick phone call or a visit away. To say the least, to have had you and still have you in my corner is not just humbling, I still pinch myself at how lucky I am. The Honourable Jenny Gardner, Christine Ferguson and other party faithful, the Leaders Task Force I initiated that you delivered has already borne fruit and hopefully will continue to provide actual outcomes on party and member diversity and equity. When others talk endlessly about quotas and targets, we talked the plan and delivered, and is of enduring credit to you. I want to pay tribute to Premier Mike Baird. The two of us have been much maligned by some sections of the community, and there's plenty who like to rewrite history, and that's all part of the game, fair enough. Nevertheless, I was and remain proud to have served alongside you, and I'm confident history will adjudicate our time favourably. I believe we truly achieved your vision and transformed the state of New South Wales after Barry and Andrew's reconstruction of the finances. We shared stewardship over some of the most prosperous and successful times in our state's history. It's been a game changer for New South Wales and especially the regions, but more importantly, people's lives. And we laid the platform for many successes that we currently experience and that will continue to follow. Were we perfect? No, but we never claimed to be. Did we make mistakes? Yes, we did, but we are human, and I believe we got way more right than we ever got wrong. Is New South Wales better off for having us? That's for others to judge, but I'm proud of the Baird Grant government and always will be. I thank you, Mike and Karen, for your friendship and support and the special bond we will always have travelling that shared journey. To the many organisations and groups I've had the opportunity to work closely with, I wish to thank you for letting me be part of your world. To my mate Glenn McGrath and the McGrath Foundation, I'm so proud of you. The Royal Far West organisation, we achieved historic investment together and new facilities to open await. The Taronga Zoo Foundation, Sydney and Dubbo, Cameron Kerr, Matty Fuller and now Steve Hinch, and your teams, I get pretty chuffed when I'm referred to as often as the member for the zoo. And I'm proud to see how much you have achieved. To the PCYC, your ambition to be the preeminent youth organisation in Australia, if not already secured, will not be far away in its recognition. The New South Wales Rugby League, Country Rugby League and Men of League Foundation, who are doing such great work. I've been the Vice Patron of Police Legacy and Ambassador for the Backup for Life program. I am awe of your work. I want to thank Bravehearts for my Thanks You Award, the Royal Flying Doctor Service and Rotary Club of Dubbo South. What an incredible partnership. To the Parliamentary Lions Club here and many other groups and organisations I've had the privilege to work with over the years, thank you one and all. Mr Speaker, to be the Minister for Heroes is an incredibly humbling calling. As Minister for Police and Minister for Emergency Services, I see each day the dedication, the bravery and the service before self displayed in the most confronting of environments, circumstances and conditions. I am proud, especially of those on the front line and those who do so much work behind the scenes under ever-increasing demand and scrutiny. It has been the greatest professional privilege of my life to represent you. Having the opportunity to work with exceptional people is inspiring. I've also had the great opportunity to work with international police forces and law enforcement bodies right across the world, and it certainly was a cool and pretty great professional highlight to meet and work with the Director of Cybersecurity Policy in the National Security Council of the Obama administration, where we met in the West Wing of the White House. I've had so many highs over the course of my political career, but there are also those moments that will continue to stick in my mind and continue to have a profound impact and continue to have on me as Police Minister. And this just isn't about the impact on an elected representative, but it's also as a husband, a father and a member of our community. The annual Police Remembrance Day commemorations, where we pause to remember those officers killed in the line of duty, is one clear example. The men and women in blue go to work in the morning not knowing if they're going to come home to their families at night. It's a terrible privilege to honour that sacrifice and bravery each year. Being there throughout the Lindt siege and the moment we learned that Curtis Cheng had been killed outside police headquarters in Parramatta have also been etched in mine and I believe our collective memories as a community forever. In these moments we despaired as a community and later grieved alongside the family members who'd lost their loved ones under the most tragic of circumstances. It was in these moments of anguish, however, that I also saw the very best of our humanity. It was in these moments when it seemed those who wished to do us harm and tear us apart, in fact, only succeeded in making us stronger, more united and abundantly defiant. As I stood in St Mary's Cathedral as the Cheng family laid Curtis to rest, one of the worst days of their life, and yet they spoke so eloquently of the need for kindness, compassion and love in our community. That's a moment I will never forget, and a lesson for us all. I believe we should carry on. It's a lesson I believe we should carry with us. The Cheng family, I honour you. You continue to inspire me daily. Can I offer a special thank you to the Commissioner, Mick Fuller, APM, your executive team, Deputy Commissioners Warboys, Loy, Hudson and Milkins. An outstanding job with the 20 years in waiting re-engineering of the organisation. Police now operate within a more relevant and dynamic structure. They're better connected to New South Wales' diverse communities and the changing crime and community safety landscape. With historic resourcing having been delivered and on the horizon, I'm confident our state will be safe and secure under your leadership. To my Emergency Service Commissioners, Shane Fitzsimmons, Mark Smethurst, Paul Baxter, Stacey Tenos and Mark Gibson, and your deputies. Surf Life Saving New South Wales CEO Steve Pearce and the team at Westpac Lifesaver Helicopter. I'm so proud of each of you. It's been an amazing privilege to work with you and achieve some amazing outcomes with some very, very special volunteers. We're a more resilient, prepared state, historically never better resourced and better functioning than any time in our history. So whatever Mother Nature throws our way in the future, as a state, I believe we're extremely lucky to have each of you. Everyone here will know, and anyone that knows me knows I wear my heart on my sleeve and have been genuinely passionate to contribute to better outcomes for stakeholders in each portfolio. There have been achievements, and plenty of them, but I share them with many, especially my brilliant ministerial office team. To that team, supported by a wonderful group of departmental officers who quickly embraced my team ethos, can I thank you for your dedication, loyalty and hard work. I can't mention you all, but you're all special to me. To Executive Directors Adrian McKenna and Fergus O'Connor and your teams for some simply outstanding work. Historic, innovative and major reform, and most importantly helping achieve life-saving differences in our community. My current staff, a small but exceptional group. Chief of Staff, Greg Desmond, decent, honest and thorough. Deputy Chief of Staff and Policy Guru, Edward W. Clapham. Despite his embarrassment, I always introduce him as I believe the smartest man in the building. I have so much admiration of you, mate. Thank you. My media team, the determined Ali Power and dynamic Brooke Eggleton. Thanks for all your hard work and patience with me, especially my reluctance to do any media. Nashida, thanks for keeping me organised, and to Steve Lohman, my driver since day one. We've done a lot of Ks together across the state. Thank you for looking after me and the family and the many confidences we've shared. Thanks also to Bill and Jerry, Colin and David for also steering me around in Steve's absences. To my former staff, and given the roles I've had a few, I look forward to catching up and sharing some wonderful memories. You all made such a contribution, and the small reference tonight does not do justice to your contribution. You all deserve more than that, and I hope you're all proud of your achievements. I hope I didn't let any of you down. My senior advisors, My senior advisors Tom Callahor and Sean O'Connell, former Deputy Chief Darren Bark, who remain great personal friends. I want to thank also Tracy Lee Cullen, Fiona Dewar and Justin Please. My amazing media team members, Tess Salmon, Cara Lawrence, Vicky Campion, Jared Schwark, Lizzie Bold, now Lizzie Dart, and Douglas Martin. You all had your work cut out for you with my butchering of the English language, my tendency to make up words, and my overuse of colourful language, often making the news. But mostly my pronunciation remains as my greatest challenge and most endearing feature. I really appreciate your fulsome help, especially my ridiculous pronunciation of rhinoceros. To my arts advisor, Sean Hiscock, policy and PLO, Alexander Byrne, what a contribution you made. To our sweet Bonnie Hageman, we all miss you. Nicholas the Tooch Santucci, you brought such a unique team-building quality to our diverse group. I can't thank you enough for your outstanding work, support and absolute loyalty. My Chief of Staff, Alex Bruce, who's watching in Darwin. Your contribution was simply immeasurable. You have never been given due credit for the successes of this government. More often than not, in your own style, bit weird, and not everyone's cup of tea, but necessary to force the right outcome. You sacrificed your own standing and took the heat for the good of others and for the outcome. You knew better than most that the Nationals never got the credit they deserve for the successes of government. You knew too that far often the Nats were on the end of undeserved and unwarranted criticism for the failings of government. You helped give us a far greater and more influential voice than ever before. Your dedication and loyalty to me was unquestioned, and leadership of the team outstanding. You have so much to be proud of, and I'll be eternally grateful to you and Bronwyn for your service. And finally, to my former Deputy Chief of Staff, run out of water. Every boss would be blessed to have a staffer as loyal and dedicated as Rachel Hayes, as she was to me and remains to me. Your drive, professionalism and dedication is without peer, and your contribution to the New South Wales Government, to many ministries that I've held, has been immense. It's amazing, when I first met you, I didn't like you much because you worked for Andrew G. And nobody likes him. Now, I wouldn't know what I would have done without you. Thank you so much, kid. You are the best. Those who share most significantly in the successes for the Dubbo electorate are my electorate office team. It may be my name on the door, but given my significant absences from the electorate on executive duty, you have carried forward with much success our constituents and communities' issues on my behalf, more often than not successfully, and have been instrumental in much good being achieved. Ministers, electorate staff, particularly for regional ministers, will concur as to how vital it is to have a team like mine. Honest, loyal, dedicated and hard-working, possessing the highest integrity, often bearing the brunt of disgruntled constituents on decisions made by government and not of their doing. My office, more than most, copped more than their fair share in 2016. To past employees, Belinda Strayhorn, Aaron McDonald, Bryony Ferguson, Harry Edmondson, Blake Watmore and Sophie Plasto, I also say a big thank you. To the wonderful temporary staff who have stepped in to help out and contributed plenty, Kirby Dunlop, Andrew Innes, Catherine Wheeler and the late Helen Babington, I acknowledge your contribution. To Darren Borger, my senior EO, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your contribution and representation of our electorate office in Parliament, with ministers' offices and most importantly with the electorate. Your contribution has been enormous. You are clearly acknowledged by your peers as a leader in your role, and you have much to be proud of. Jane Diffie, you inspire me with your passion and commitment to our community, and our new school for special purposes, thanks to Minister Stokes, is a fitting tribute to your contribution. Stay strong in your role on Dubbo Regional Council. I know it's tough being surrounded by elected representatives who only have selfish agendas and their own interests at heart. But you will prevail, and in time, they will each simply fade and fail. Our new recruit, Ben Walker, you've already left your imprint, and I'll be looking on fondly as you both continue to serve past my tenure, and I hope assist the new member for Dubbo, Dougal Saunders, as he represents our electorate. Pauline McAllister, our Duchess of Bumblegumby. 8 years ago, you turned up to help me out when I didn't know which way was up, saying you'd be able to help for a week or two. Well, 8 years later and all this time, your contribution as our Minister for congratulatory messages has been enormous. I know you often lament that you don't contribute as much as you'd like, but I can assure you that your role is potentially the most important and meaningful in our operations. Yours and Trevor's steadfast and loyal support to Tony, the kids and I will never be forgotten. In conclusion, the most important thank yous to Tony, Taylor and Hamish. Thank you for giving up so much to allow me to serve. Thank you for the many sacrifices you have each made, and here's just a couple of examples. To my kids, leaving you to celebrate Father's Day together, but without me. Not being there, Taylor, when you were dancing in a community event and you dislocated your knee and just needed your dad. I don't even remember what I was doing that day that was so important that I wasn't there for you. Not seeing you, Hamish, kick that winning goal in your soccer grand final and taking out man of the match. Getting the news from your coach in a text as a heads up of what you had just done. While I was somewhere else doing something else that I, again, have no recall as to why I wasn't there. The unacceptable trespass into your lives, your personal safety, because of decisions I made from people wanting to get at me through you, by menacing, threatening and harassing you. I will never forgive those individuals for what they did to you for their own benefit. I will never forgive myself. I love you. I love you and will spend the rest of my life making up for all those things and being away from you for 4 of the last 8 years I have served. To Tony, despite all of that, being imprisoned in your own home, and to still successfully sustain our family home, raise 2 incredible kids, largely alone, there aren't enough words sufficient to thank you or talk about how amazing you are. We have 2 great kids, school's done, into uni, the first grants in my family to attend university. And on top of that, you're now a twice published author, selling your books in the US and UK. I'm so proud of you. To each of you, I know politics was never your thing, but you always believed in me. There was always another aeroplane and another place, an exciting event or a famous person to meet. I was often surrounded by a million people, but more often than not I felt lonely and alone, and I missed you all dearly. I often felt like I was living someone else's life. Such was the privilege of much of what I got to do. But I just want to be near you and I want to come home. I don't know what's the next chapter of our lives or what it will bring, but I know, being honest, that by my nature it will involve making a contribution to my community in some form or another. It's simply my Scottish DNA and is a bit unavoidable. But I can assure you I am done. I look forward to anonymity and being out of the public eye. That is very appealing after 30 years living under intense scrutiny and expectation. I do know that our lives will be dominated by me repaying my family for the sacrifices they have made and not being away from them for 200 nights a year. I'll always be a son of regional I'll always be a son of regional New South Wales, no matter where I go in the world. I started here as an idealist without illusions, and I leave as a realist with some reservations, but still with the entrenched belief to whom much is given, much is required. I leave this place knowing I will not miss the circus. I'll only miss some of the clowns. When it's all said and done, I am done. And I'm simply grateful to have served. I thank the House.
Tony, order. Tony, Hamish and Taylor, the former Deputy Premier, Minister for Police and Minister for Emergency Services, I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone in asking that God will continue to bless you all as a family, and well done today with a valedictory speech that I'm sure will continue on as being an outstanding speech in the history of this Parliament.
I couldn't get there in time because I'd arranged it. Thank you very much. Thank you for doing that.
Shows what it takes when it comes to your kids and the cost of
It's not in the order, but I'll give it to you, Star.
I'll get it to the attendant.
Well, it's nearly some of the clowns.